a bit different today because I'm not talking about my startup. I'm interested in all of your startups. The City of Sydney is the local government authority for this area. So we stretch from Millers Point in the north to Rosebery in the south and Glebe in the west, Paddington in the east. Traditionally, local government is seen as responsible for roads, rates and rubbish, whereas the City of Sydney is a bit different in that it's very interested in city building. What are the futures of cities? What are the economic and cultural impacts of cities? And how can a capital city government like the City of Sydney help young creative activity? So up until quite recently, the city has been quite limited in the way that it could support startups. It primarily had a grants program, a grants program which was really only directed for not-for-profit organisations. And there's been traditionally quite a fear, I think, in local government about how it supports startup and I guess commercial or profitable activity. Local government is traditionally focused more on risk elimination than risk management, in fact all government. And so the project that we started in Oxford Street was quite a breakthrough. The way it worked is that we had about 18 empty spaces on Oxford Street that the city owned. And we wanted to use those spaces and support creative startup, profitable companies that were really wanting to test their startup idea. So we ran an expression of interest process. We had a huge number of people write to us and say that they had a project or an idea. They weren't sure if it was financially viable, but they wanted to take a risk on it. We selected the final 18, which was not easy, and we gave them spaces in order to kind of risk and experiment. So there were 14 suites at 66 Oxford Street. They're leased directly to small business, and there are 2 co-share spaces, including Engine Room, which is run by fish burners, and Homework. Engine Room alone provides space for 30 to 40 startups each quarter. In William Street, so the project was seen as a really significant success. We measured, I guess, all the outcomes in terms of increased footfall, the number of people in the area, how much people were spending in the area, so we could say to the community that there were other benefits to the local area, not just for the startups themselves. Because it was seen as a success, we've extended the project to some spaces in William Street, and we are just finalising some tenancies for properties there. It will host another very large co-share organisation, as well as a collaborative workspace housing businesses from fashion, design, architecture and digital media. Why is this important? We're currently in the process of developing the policy framework for our cultural policy. Policy is the way in which government enacts its powers and allocates its resources. It's how we justify the decisions we make. The 2 main policy projects that will guide our support of startup enterprise is the Creative City project, which is essentially City of Sydney's first ever cultural policy. So it articulates how we contribute to making Sydney an environment that fosters innovation and creative thinking. What we are asking of our community, and these books are going to be on the table at the back of the room, is we're asking the community and the creative sector, what kind of cultural and creative life do you want for Sydney, and how might a capital city government like ours help you get there? There are 3 particular directions that I wanted to draw your attention to in this document. The first is that we are seeing within the community a really massive increase in the number of people who are making and doing. What I would call passive consumption, so attending the theatre, going to the cinema, going to see a live band, the numbers of people doing that stuff has been relatively stable for the last decade. What hasn't been stable is the making and doing. And the Australian Bureau of Statistics have been channeling this and assessing this over the last 10 years. In a high level of granularity, so whether it's textile design, digital photography, metalwork, jewellery making, it's been a huge rise across all of these areas. So the question for the city is, how might it support this? It already runs Pine Street Creative Arts Centre, but perhaps there are other ways that we can foster and help support the fact that the community are doing this in really increasing numbers. The second is how we support a vibrant creative economy. One of the most important ways that we can do that at the moment is through space, but perhaps there are other ways. We know that many creative industry startups and organisations say they also want introductions to venture capitalists. They want to be able to network. They want to be able to have more access to professional development skills. So what role might the City of Sydney play in facilitating those things? And third, we want to be a partner for big ideas. It's very easy with government to get very focused on the election cycle, what we do in the next 4 years. And yet we know in our own city with the building of the Sydney Opera House, or in Hobart with Mona, that big ideas, creative imaginations transform cities forever. So what role does the City of Sydney play in hearing your big ideas, in supporting those big ideas, because we know the kind of transformational effect that they have on Sydney. So we're really calling for your feedback, your suggestions about how we can turn these ideas into something real for Sydney. There's details, as I say, in the back of the document whereby you can email us, write to us, phone in. There's a whole range of ways you can connect with us, and we look forward to reading it. Thanks.